Komodoensis, also known as the Komodo monitor, is a large reptile of the monitor lizard family Varanidae that is endemic to the Indonesian islands of Komodo, Rinca, Flores, and Gili Motang. It is the largest extant species of lizard, with the males growing to a maximum length of 3 meters 9.8 feet and weighing up to 150 kilograms 330 pounds. As a result of their size, Komodo dragons are apex predators, and dominate the ecosystems in which they live. Komodo dragons hunt and ambush prey including invertebrates, birds, and mammals. Komodo dragons' group behavior in hunting is exceptional in the reptile world. The diet of Komodo dragons mainly consists of Javan rusa, Rusa timorensis, though they also eat considerable amounts of carrion. Komodo dragons also occasionally attack humans. Mating begins between May and August, and the eggs are laid in September. As many as 20 eggs are deposited at a time in an abandoned megapode nest or in a self-dug nesting hole. The eggs are incubated for 7 to 8 months, hatching in April, when insects are most plentiful. Young Komodo dragons are vulnerable and dwell in trees to avoid predators, such as cannibalistic adults, which young Komodo dragons also try to repel by rolling in feces. They take 8 to 9 years to mature and are estimated to live up to 30 years. Komodo dragons were first recorded by Western scientists in 1910. Their large size and fearsome reputation make them popular zoo exhibits. In the wild, their range has been reduced by human encroachment and is likely to contract further from the effects of climate change, hence, they are listed as endangered by the IUCN Red List. They are protected under Indonesian law, and Komodo National Park was founded in 1980 to aid protection efforts. Komodo dragons were first documented by Europeans in 1910, when rumors of a land crocodile reached Lieutenant Van Stein van Hensbroek of the Dutch colonial administration. Widespread notoriety came after 1912, when Peter Owens, the director of the Zoological Museum of Bogor, Java, published a paper on the topic after receiving a photo and a skin from the lieutenant, as well as 2 other specimens from a collector. The first 2 live Komodo dragons to arrive in Europe were exhibited in the Reptile House at London Zoo when it opened in 1927. Joan Beecham Proctor made some of the earliest observations of these animals in captivity, and she demonstrated their behavior at a scientific meeting of the Zoological Society of London in 1928. The Komodo dragon was the driving factor for an expedition to Komodo Island by W. Douglas Burton in 1926. After returning with 12 preserved specimens and 2 live ones, this expedition provided the inspiration for the 1933 movie King Kong 8. It was also Burton who coined the common name Komodo dragon. 3 of his specimens were stuffed and are still on display in the American Museum of Natural History. The Dutch Island Administration, realizing the limited number of individuals in the wild, soon outlawed sport hunting and heavily limited the number of individuals taken for scientific study. Collecting expeditions ground to a halt with the occurrence of World War II, not resuming until the 1950s and 1960s, when studies examined the Komodo dragon's feeding behavior, reproduction, and body temperature. At around this time, an expedition was planned in which a long-term study of the Komodo dragon would be undertaken. Research proved enormously influential in raising Komodo dragons in captivity. Research has shed more light on the nature of the Komodo dragon, with biologists continuing to study the creatures. Genetic analysis of mitochondrial DNA shows the Komodo dragon to be the closest relative, sister taxon, of the Australian lace monitor, V. varius, with their common ancestor diverging from a lineage that gave rise to the crocodile monitor, Varana salvadori, of New Guinea. A 2021 study showed that during the late Miocene, the ancestors of Komodo dragons had hybridized with the common ancestor of Australian sand monitors, including V. spenceri, V. goldii, V. rosenbergi and V. panoptes. Fossils from across Queensland demonstrate that the Komodo dragon was once present in Australia, with fossils spanning from the early Pliocene, 3.8 million years ago, to the middle Pleistocene, with the youngest confirmed records of the species in Australia dating to at latest 330,000 years ago. In Australia, it coexisted with the even larger monitor species Varanus priscus, also known as Megalania, the largest terrestrial lizard ever. The oldest records of the Komodo dragon on Flores date to around 1.4 million years ago, during the early Pleistocene. Additionally, Pleistocene fossils of Varanus found in Java and Timor may belong to the Komodo dragon. In the wild, adult Komodo dragons usually weigh around 70 kilograms 150 pounds, although captive specimens often weigh more. According to Guinness World Records, an average adult male will weigh 79 to 91 kilograms, 174 to 201 pounds, and measure 2.59 meters 8.5 feet, while an average female will weigh 68 to 73 kilograms, 150 to 161 pounds, and measure 2.29 meters 7.5 feet. The largest verified specimen in captivity was 3.13 m, 10 feet 3 in, long and weighed 166 kilograms 366 pounds, including its undigested food. The largest wild specimen had a length 3.04 meters 10 feet, a snout vent length, SVL, 1.54 m, 5 feet 1 in, and a mass of 81.5 kilograms 180 pounds excluding stomach contents. The heaviest reached a mass of 87.4 kilograms 193 pounds. The study noted that weights greater than 100 kilograms 220 pounds were possible, but only after the animal had consumed a large meal. The Komodo dragon has a tail as long as its body, as well as about 60 frequently replaced, serrated teeth that can measure up to 2.5 centimeters, 1 in length. Its saliva is frequently blood-tinged because its teeth are almost completely covered by gingival tissue that is naturally lacerated during feeding. It also has a long, yellow, deeply forked tongue. Komodo dragon skin is reinforced by armored scales, which contain tiny bones called osteoderms that function as a sort of natural chain mail. The only areas lacking osteoderms on the head of the adult Komodo dragon are around the eyes, nostrils, mouth margins, and parietali, a light-sensing organ on the top of the head. Where lizards typically have one or two varying patterns or shapes of osteoderms, Komodos have four: rosette, platy, dendritic, and vermiform. This rugged hide makes Komodo dragon skin a poor source of leather. Additionally, these osteoderms become more extensive and variable in shape as the Komodo dragon ages, ossifying more extensively as the lizard grows. These osteoderms are absent in hatchlings and juveniles, indicating that the natural armor develops as a product of age and competition between adults for protection in intraspecific combat over food and mates. Researchers have also documented a venom gland in the dragon's lower jaw. In addition to the harmful bacteria, the venom prevents the blood from clotting, which causes massive blood loss and induces shock. The Komodo's bite may be deadly, but not to another Komodo dragon. Komodo dragons have zippodont teeth, which are defined as teeth that are laterally flattened, recurved, and with serrated tooth crowns where the serrations have a dentine core and a very thin enamel outer layer. This is the same type of dentition observed in many extinct theropod dinosaurs. The teeth of the insectivorous juveniles in contrast are barely recurved, with fewer and less well-developed serrations that lack dentine cores. A 2024 study published in Nature Ecology and Evolution found that Komodo dragons have orange, iron-enriched coatings on their tooth serrations and tips, as an adaptation for maintaining the sharp cutting edges. This feature is also observed to a lesser degree in a few other Australasian to Asian monitor species, though notably absent in a few other species from that range. Teeth are quickly replaced every 40 days, while maintaining up to 5 replacement teeth for each tooth position at any given time. This high rate of replacement and large number of replacement teeth is similar to that of the crocodile monitor. Many other monitor species as well as Chinese crocodile lizards and beaded lizards only have 1 to 2 replacement teeth behind each tooth position. As with other varanids, Komodo dragons have only a single ear bone, the stapes, for transferring vibrations from the tympanic membrane to the cochlea. This arrangement means they are likely restricted to sounds in the 400 to 2000 Hz range, compared to humans who hear between 20 and study reported no agitation in wild Komodo dragons in response to whispers, raised voices, or shouts. This was disputed when London Zoo employee Joan Proctor trained a captive specimen to come out to feed at the sound of her voice, even when she could not be seen. The Komodo dragon can see objects as far away as 300 meters 980 feet, but because its retinas only contain cones, it is thought to have poor night vision. It can distinguish colors, but has poor visual discrimination of stationary objects. As with many other reptiles, the Komodo dragon primarily relies on its tongue to detect, taste, and smell stimuli, with the vomeronasal sense using the Jacobson's organ, rather than using the nostrils. With the help of a favorable wind and its habit of swinging its head from side to side as it walks, a Komodo dragon may be able to detect carrion from 4 to 9.5 kilometers, 2.5 to 5.9 miles, away. It only has a few taste buds in the back of its throat. Its scales, some of which are reinforced with bone, have sensory plaques connected to nerves to facilitate its sense of touch. The scales around the ears, lips, chin, and soles of the feet may have 3 or more sensory plaques. The Komodo dragon prefers hot and dry places and typically lives in dry, open grassland, savanna, and tropical forest at low elevations. As an ectotherm, it is most active in the day, although it exhibits some nocturnal activity. Komodo dragons are solitary, coming together only to breed and eat. They are capable of running rapidly in brief sprints up to 20 km per hour 12 miles per hour, diving up to 4.5 meters 15 feet, and climbing trees proficiently when young through use of their strong claws. To catch out of reach prey, the Komodo dragon may stand on its hind legs and use its tail as a support. As it matures, its claws are used primarily as weapons, as its great size makes climbing impractical. For shelter, the Komodo dragon digs holes that can measure from 1 to 3 m, 3.3 to 9.8 feet, wide with its powerful forelimbs and claws. Because of its large size and habit of sleeping in these burrows, it is able to conserve body heat throughout the night and minimize its basking period the morning after. The Komodo dragon stays in the shade during the hottest part of the day and hunts in the afternoon. These special resting places, usually located on ridges with cool sea breezes, are marked with droppings and are cleared of vegetation. They serve as strategic locations from which to ambush deer. Komodo dragons are apex predators. They are carnivores, although they have been considered as eating mostly carrion. They will frequently ambush live prey with a stealthy approach. When suitable prey arrives near a dragon's ambush site, it will suddenly charge at the animal at high speeds and go for the underside or the throat. Komodo dragons do not deliberately allow the prey to escape with fatal injuries but try to kill prey outright using a combination of lacerating damage and blood loss. They have been recorded as killing wild pigs within seconds, and observations of Komodo dragons tracking prey for long distances are likely misinterpreted cases of prey escaping an attack before succumbing to infection. Most prey attacked by a Komodo dragon reputedly suffer from said sepsis and will later be eaten by the same or other lizards. Komodo dragons eat by tearing large chunks of flesh and swallowing them whole while holding the carcass down with their forelimbs. For smaller prey up to the size of a goat, their loosely articulated jaws, flexible skulls, and expandable stomachs allow them to swallow prey whole. The undigested vegetable contents of a prey animal's stomach and intestines are typically avoided. Copious amounts of red saliva the Komodo dragons produce help to lubricate the food, but swallowing is still a long process, 15 to 20 minutes to swallow a goat. A Komodo dragon may attempt to speed up the process by ramming the carcass against a tree to force it down its throat, sometimes ramming so forcefully that the tree is knocked down. A small tube under the tongue that connects to the lungs allows it to breathe while swallowing. After eating up to 80% of its body weight in one meal, it drags itself to a sunny location to speed digestion, as the food could rot and poison the dragon if left undigested in its stomach for too long. Because of their slow metabolism, large dragons can survive on as few as 12 meals a year. After digestion, the Komodo dragon regurgitates a mass of horns, hair, and teeth known as the gastric pellet, which is covered in malodorous mucus. After regurgitating the gastric pellet, it rubs its face in the dirt or on bushes to get rid of the mucus. The eating habits of Komodo dragons follow a hierarchy, with the larger animals generally eating before the smaller ones. The largest male typically asserts his dominance and the smaller males show their submission by use of body language and rumbling hisses. Dragons of equal size may resort to wrestling. Losers usually retreat, though they have been known to be killed and eaten by victors. The Komodo dragon's diet varies depending on stage of growth. Young Komodo dragons will eat insects, birds, and birds' eggs and small reptiles, while larger Komodo dragons, typically over 20 kilograms 44 pounds, prefer large ungulate prey, such as Javan rusa deer, wild pigs, and water buffalo. Occasionally, they attack and bite humans. Sometimes they consume human corpses, digging up bodies from shallow graves. This habit of raiding graves caused the villagers of Komodo to move their graves from sandy to clay ground, and pile rocks on top of them, to deter the lizards. Morph species of Stegodon, a proboscidean related to living elephants, are suggested to have been a primary prey item of the Komodo dragon during the Pleistocene, prior to the introduction of their modern ungulate prey, which were only introduced to the islands in the Holocene, around 10 to 7,000 years ago. The Komodo dragon drinks by sucking water into its mouth by a buccal pumping, a process also used for respiration, lifting its head, and letting the water run down its throat. Although previous studies proposed that Komodo dragon saliva contains a variety of highly septic bacteria that would help to bring down prey, research in 2013 suggested that the bacteria in the mouths of Komodo dragons are ordinary and similar to those found in other carnivores. Komodo dragons have good mouth hygiene. To quote Brian Fry, after they are done feeding, they will spend 10 to 15 minutes lip-licking and rubbing their head in the leaves to clean their mouth. Unlike people have been led to believe, they do not have chunks of rotting flesh from their meals on their teeth, cultivating bacteria. They do have a slashing bite, which normally includes a dose of their neurotoxin venom and anticoagulant saliva. Komodo dragons do not wait for prey to die and track it at a distance, as vipers do. Observations of them hunting deer, boar, and in some cases buffalo reveal that they kill prey in less than half an hour. The observation of prey dying of sepsis would then be explained by the natural instinct of water buffaloes, who are not native to the islands where the Komodo dragon lives, to run into water after escaping an attack. The warm, faces-filled water would then cause the infections. The study used samples from 16 captive dragons, 10 adults and 6 neonates, from 3 U.S. zoos. Mating occurs between May and August, with the eggs laid in September. During this period, males fight over females and territory by grappling with one another upon their hind legs, with the loser eventually being pinned to the ground. These males may vomit or defecate when preparing for the fight. 38. The winner of the fight will then flick his long tongue at the female to gain information about her receptivity. Females are antagonistic and resist with their claws and teeth during the early phases of courtship. Therefore, the male must fully restrain the female during coitus to avoid being hurt. Other courtship displays include males rubbing their chins on the female, hard scratches to the back, and licking. Copulation occurs when the male inserts one of his hemipens into the female's cloaca. Komodo dragons may be monogamous and form pair bonds, a rare behavior for lizards. Female Komodos lay their eggs from August to September and may use several types of locality. In one study, 60% laid their eggs in the nests of orange-footed scrub owl, a mound builder or megapode, 20% on ground level and 20% in hilly areas. The females make many camouflage nests/holes to prevent other dragons from eating the eggs. Nests typically house one female, however a study found evidence of 2 females occasionally occupying the same den. Flushes contain an average of 20 eggs, which have an incubation period of 7 to 8 months. 38. Hatching is an exhausting effort for the neonates, which break out of their eggshells with an egg tooth that falls off before long. After cutting themselves out, the hatchlings may lie in their eggshells for hours before starting to dig out of the nest. They are born quite defenseless and are vulnerable to predation. 16 youngsters from a single nest were on average 46.5 centimeters long and weighed 105.1 grams. Young Komodo dragons spend much of their first few years in trees, where they are relatively safe from predators, including cannibalistic adults, as juvenile dragons make up 10% of their diets. The habit of cannibalism may be advantageous in sustaining the large size of adults, as medium-sized prey on the islands is rare. 70 When the young approach a kill, they roll around in fecal matter and rest in the intestines of eviscerated animals to deter these hungry adults. Komodo dragons take approximately 8 to 9 years to mature, and may live for up to 30 years.